Hoof listeners, feels good. Bills clinched the number 2 seed, win 5 games in a row to get there. Man, it feels good. 4-time AFC East champ. Hats off to the Buffalo Bills. Hats off to the season they had. A lot of us were jumping off the wagon, right? 6-6. Headed into the bye. It wasn't looking pretty, but they pulled it off. I mean, I remember talking a lot about the gauntlet of a schedule they had after the bye week, right?
Yeah, and survived it, right? That's all you needed to do. And that was with that first game being that really close loss to the Eagles. And so you didn't start it out on the right foot, but then after that, we knew it was you got to win to control your own fate, and they did. And that's what they did. And it came down to that last game of the season, Bills Dolphins, and Dolphins lose, Bills beat them. That's what counts. All the gloating those Dolphins fans did for the weeks they were ahead come back to bite them in the butt. And Josh Allen takes care of business as always against the Dolphins, it seems, which is, just amazing. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't the prettiest. Yeah. Again, we've been talking about, right? But a win is a win. Yeah. And that victory was a game changer. It makes us the 2 seed instead of the 7 seed. Now we're playing at home against Pittsburgh instead of on the road. Versus
it's all there for you, right?
Yeah,
all there.
It's
this scenario. Really, now we can start talking Super Bowl. Like, I think that's real.
Yes,
obviously the playoff games are always challenging, right? So we're not going to throw them in there yet, but you can have these conversations now. You're at home versus the 7 seed Pittsburgh, who barely made it in. A lot of people think they shouldn't have made it in. I didn't think they'd beat Seattle in Seattle, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you win, it's a home playoff game where Kansas City now has to come to Buffalo for the first time, right? I don't think Pat Mahomes ever played in Buffalo.
Nope.
So that's a lot different scenario than traveling to Kansas City or going on the road to play Baltimore, right? If you're the 6 seed. So that's what Miami's facing now.
Yes.
So it's a lot different scenario where the Bills have, home field advantage. You're going to get the better matchup. Because you don't have to go to Baltimore until at least the championship game, and I think that's key, right? You don't want to go to Baltimore with the way they've been playing. We'll see how it works out, but I mean,
yeah, they still have to win their games too, right? Well, game, I guess, but yeah. So this first round, you get the Steelers at home, which is a great matchup because you were able to win the AFC East and get that 2 seed, and I feel the same way that the Steelers are not really a playoff team. They're playing with a backup quarterback, a third string quarterback. And then they just lost TJ Watt, which is going to be huge. We'll talk more about that on Thursday, but that's a blow to them as well. Cause they've always been playing good defense because of a player of his caliber. And now that guy is not going to be available to you.
Right.
Changes the whole face of what they do.
Even without TJ Watt, the Steelers team, like you can't make the mistakes you've made versus the Chargers. The Bills, there's a close game. They got, Easton Stick played a pretty good game. The Bills didn't play their best, right? New England, Bills didn't play their best again on offense. And then in Miami, you had a bad first half, right, on offense. So you can't do that when you go to Pittsburgh. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to be ready. They've had tough matchups all year, and somehow they find a way to win. So you just can't give them any room. That's my initial thoughts on Pittsburgh. But like you said, we'll talk more about that on Thursday. We'll get into depth. We'll talk about all the playoff matchups. Looks like a lot of great ones. Matt Stafford going back to Detroit is a big game. I love the Miami. Tyreek Hill returning to Kansas City to play in the cold. That's going to be a great game as well. So, it's working out. And
the storylines are there, even in the NFC, right? Dallas plays Green Bay, their coach's former team, all that.
For sure.
It's an interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. And, just thinking this Miami game, I thought the Bills were going to lose in the first half, right? Today's not our day. Things aren't going your way, right?
Everything. I mean, you start off with an interception. Yeah, they're driving, you intercept it. You're like, oh my God, momentum's all ours. Play after play, they're doing exactly what we said they needed to. Take what's given, get the yardage in front of you, get a first down. And then there was the play with, was it Kincaid or Knox, who got a clear pass interference? You could not have a clearer pass interference at the goal line. Misses the catch, obviously, because he was tugged, because he was held. No flag. And I was screaming at what in the hell? You can't make a more obvious call. Like, that was clearly pass interference, no matter who looks at it, not biased.
It was. And things weren't going their way, right? That's kind of what sums it up.
Yeah.
So like I accepted, okay, well, we're gonna have to go play Miami again in the wild card round, and there's no way the Bills lose to Miami twice. That was the thought process.
And the Bills 1 of 4 on their first 4 attempts in the red zone for points, not even for, getting, a touchdown. Like, they did get 1 touchdown, but the other 3, they got 0, nothing, 2 interceptions, and the botched before the half, clock runs out, which there was also a penalty of helmet to helmet on the hit, of Ty Johnson at the goal line. Yes, Josh Allen can't make that throw. He's got to put it in the end zone, but there was a helmet to helmet. Boom. You heard it. You saw it. Not called. So much for player safety and all that. Again, and that, affected the game. No points. And they go into the half down. And yeah, just like you said, I was thinking the same thing. Man, this isn't our day. This is not good when everything is going against you again. And the injuries, right? We had 3 injuries in the game. In-game injuries. Yes, I heard from Miami fans, oh, well, our guys, our best players aren't out there. Yes, so are ours. We're missing guys too. But when it happens in-game, it's a lot worse than having a whole week to prep for it, right? You're like, damn it, these guys knew their roles, and they're out in the first quarter. It's not like this was, the fourth quarter or something. We had 3 guys go down, big players, and that was scary as well. I didn't like the looks of that going into the half. I'm like, oh, my God, what is McDermott even going to say at the halftime? Like, okay, guys who are normally only playing special team snaps and now have to play a big role. Balin Spector, right? Dane Jackson, both had to come in and play every play, basically. And that was, if you would have told me that coming in, I would have felt very, very uneasy about it. But sure enough, things change in the second half.
Yeah, if you said Balin Spector was going to play, I'd be like, oh, what happened? What the hell happened? He's not supposed to be in the game. But, he came out. You could see why he was in the game. He looked ready. He made a few plays.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Yeah. Speed. He was at the tackles. Yeah.
Well, McDermott says it all the time. If you practice well and you show us something that week, you have the opportunity to play over some other people. It's not like a static depth chart.
Yeah. Rasul Douglas goes down, your best player, defensive player of the week last week. And then, he goes down. He's been on fire since he's become a Buffalo Bill. And not that Dane Jackson is bad. We know he's very capable, but you just lost your dynamic playmaker on defense. And still they were able to, I don't care what anybody says. Weeks ago, we were talking about firing Sean McDermott. And I still said then that what he's been able to do with this defense, missing his key players, was phenomenal. This stretch of games, what he held these teams to that were the top scoring offenses in the NFL. We're talking about Dallas and Miami and the Eagles. And we, held them to account with the defense, especially in those games we won. I mean, Sean McDermott has made a case to be coach of the year with what he's done with that defense. And, coming out of that hole and getting this team, keeping this team mentally prepared and ready to go and finding a way to win down the stretch. Phenomenal turnaround for Sean McDermott, and he deserves all the credit for that. And remember, he's calling the defensive plays, and he's been able to get blood from a stone with these guys, right? I mean, and no matter who's gone out there, they've been able to hold, right? Not necessarily be a dynamic, not give up any points, but just hold, do their job, and look impressive, and not miss a beat when somebody goes down. And that, again, is on the head coach in my mind.
Yeah, and it's easy to fall in that conversation. We had that, fire Sean McDermott. You're looking around the league going, well, who are the good teams? Well, they're all offensive coaches, right? But really, I think the teams actually got in the playoffs. There is a number of defensive coaches, right? Mike Tomlin, Sean McDermott, Todd Bowles, if you want to count that, the 9-8 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, so they're still alive and well, but there was a period of time where it looked like it was going to be all offensive coaches in the
right,
in the playoffs. So I mean, it starts making you second guess things. But again, I think the head coach coaches the team as a whole. As long as you can motivate professional athletes to show up and play their best, and you have a good roster, I think you can win. Like, there's no scheme in the world that can just win you games all the time, right? I think Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are maybe the exception because they're so good and so creative, and it works for them. But it doesn't work everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's a little naive to say like, oh, well, offensive head coach will win you games, right? I don't think that's true. now that the dust has settled a little bit.
Yeah, right. And it's about coaching guys up. It'll be interesting to see, and we're going to talk a little bit about the coaching availability now, the head coaches who got fired and positions that are open. How many of these positions go to offensive versus defensive? And obviously my initial reaction is 90% of them are going to go to offensive coaches because that's the way the league is going now. But a lot of these defensive minds are going to be made available or are available. And, will they find a landing spot if they have that experience, if they have that clout? There's a lot of conversation to be had there. And Sean McDermott has shown that, it's not all about offense all the time, right? The defense, he's been able to hold it and, get that job done.
Right.
And it's proven. Yeah, he's proven himself now. Forget all the nonsense that happened this season. My prediction at the beginning of the season was for the Bills to have 12 wins. They finish 11. They still win the East. They still are the 2 seed, which is even better than I predicted them with 12 wins. I said 3 seed. And there you have it, right? It speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree. It's 4 AFC East championships. And then it's his 5th playoff appearance, correct? I got it up here. That's 4. Let's see.
5 out of 6, right? Yeah.
5 out of 6. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 out of 7.
6 out, right. This is his 7th season. Wow, is it really?
2017 lost the wild card. 2018 didn't make the playoffs. Has now made the
that was the one. Yeah,
made the playoffs 4 years in a row. 5. This is the 5th year in a row. So 5 years in a row. Correct. Won the division 4 years in a row, and then of the 7 seasons that Sean McDermott's coach, he's made the playoffs 6 times. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive overall.
Yeah, you'll take that.
Especially you're in the division with the Patriots, and I know they've looked bad the last 2 years, but they were good before that. I mean, they were in the playoffs. They got smoked by the Bills in the wild card, right?
Yep.
So they didn't really go away necessarily. Jets, but still the Jets. I mean, but in Miami, they seem like they're always right there, but just can't get over the hump. That's still
exactly.
This seems true.
Everything was there. Now remember that game against Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Tennessee literally handed them a victory. Here, we don't want it. Take it. We gave you the points. You couldn't score them. We gave them to you. And they still blew it with 3 minutes left and a 14-point lead. And now that game is the reason they lost the division, right?
Well,
that is
just watching this Miami team, and the Bills did not play well in the first half. They gave the Dolphins tons of opportunities.
Everything.
And like the division's on the line here, the 2 seed, it all goes through you. And this is your chance to actually get over the hump, beat a good team. And I just feel like they didn't really impress me at all, right? They look like they're having a tough time again with Sean McDermott's defense.
Yep.
It's the same type of throws. I mean, I saw a couple innovative plays, but it's still, the same type of throws in the seam to Tyreek Hill. It's still the stretch runs,
They did a great job running the ball in the first half down the Bills' throats with the speed of A-Chain. And I mean, he looked great in the first half. It was like, oh my God, can we please stop this guy? But then once the Bills honed and keyed in on it, it seemed like they got it, they got it.
There's no adjustments. I feel like there's no adjustments for the
Yes. And again, what the Dolphins have relied on, they've stuck to, and in this game that didn't work. And I think part of that is 2 things. One is a carryover of a bad game against Baltimore. Instead of bouncing back, they're
banged up. And that's injury report was huge.
Yes, that's the second thing. Guys are so injured, and you lost a couple of key guys that morale was down. So your morale is down, and you come down off a bad game, and you already have a playoff spot clinched. So their motivation is what I question, and their preparedness. They're beat up, but so is everybody playing right now after 18 weeks, right? And that, I think, came through, and maybe that falls on their head coach, right? McDaniels, you got to have your guys ready to go. You got to have them prepared. Again, we talked about how the Bills were able to overcome all their injuries, despite what happened this season, overcome the noise on the outside that started in the preseason and has continued all season long, really. And here they are in the same position again, division winners. And Miami faltering at the end tells me that their head coach is still young. He's still fresh, and he's not necessarily got all the answers to situations that he hasn't faced yet. I believe he's a good coach. There's no question there to me. But, again, overcoming adversity is now a challenge. And no matter how much they show you on TV for Hard Knocks or whatever, I haven't watched it personally, but
watched a few episodes.
But I've got nothing against McDaniels. I like him as a coach, which is tough because he's against.
I like their team. Their team's fun to watch.
Yeah. But this is a small hole that the Bills were able to take advantage of, I think. The experience matters. McDermott out-coached McDaniels big time in this game. Adjustments you talked about. Yeah.
I agree. And I feel like Tua just didn't take over the game. Like when you get to the playoffs, you have to hit that other gear, that sixth gear. You know what I mean? Like, good quarterbacks will rise to the occasion, make plays, and there's plenty of quarterbacks that do that. I feel like Tua, we haven't seen that, right? When you play a good team, you got to be able to go a little bit off script and like kind of get to your second, third reads here quickly and make plays. I just feel like there's a disconnect there. It's so reliant on the talented receivers, and they're the best in the league. There's no doubt. And that system, credit to McDaniels and Tua, has been phenomenal for them. But when you hit that other gear, it just seems to be missing, right? We haven't really seen Tua take over a game like that, right? When you're having a hard time getting into Tyreek Hill, who else can you go to here? And it just seems like they always struggle with that. Exactly. And that's another thing I noticed.
And in this game, again, they relied on the run game in the first half, and it worked to open up some opportunities in the pass. But then once the Bills figured that out, they could not adjust in the second half, and that was really what hurt them, offensively. And the Bills defense, again, that the first half, they showed holes or whatever, but they adjusted, and they absolutely shut them down in the second half. 2 3 and outs, 3 3 and outs, 2 interceptions. I mean, it was an interception to end the game. It was an awesome performance by the Bills defense overall in that second half to shut down that Miami offense. They scored 14 points in the first half, none in the second half, which then brings me to the Bills offense, which made adjustments at half and then totally changed it too, right? Josh Allen in the first half, oh boy, the roller coaster that is having Josh Allen, right? That was some of the worst play we've seen from him ever. Decision-making, throwing.
It's not necessarily all bad. I mean, he drove his team down the field 4 times.
Correct.
They're in the red zone 4 times.
But decision
Josh Allen moving the offense.
Yep, but just throw it away. Just get the easy points. You can't do that, right? We know that. That's the lowest low of Josh Allen, especially of late. And then in the second half, he just absolutely turned it on. Talk about adjustments. I would say that some of the best football we've seen from him, certainly in the last 4 or 5 games with that offense. Not that it's all been Josh Allen, but the offense in general, drop passes, whatever. Josh Allen took this second half into his own hands, was able to run, was able to make plays, was able to make the passes. I mean, he looked phenomenal. And the other bingo card thing here, I tweeted this out, and I think I texted you and Sterling this during the game too, but if God himself came down from heaven and sat next to me and said, Anthony, in this game, the Bills will win on a Trent Sherfield and Deontay Hardy touchdown in the same game, I would have laughed in God's face and said, you're stupid. What are you, crazy? The Bills might win this game, but it ain't going to be with those 2 guys who have done nothing all year and look like roster busts. And sure enough, here we are.
I mean,
a Deontay Hardy touchdown that reinvigorated the offense.
I remember,
teams, right?
My family was picking on me because I was watching the game going, let the ball bounce.
Yes,
let it bounce.
Don't touch it. Don't.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
From the 4 and touchdown. Longest kick return touchdown in Bills history.
I was shocked because he really hasn't had a lot of returns this year. When he did, it hasn't been like a huge average.
And we talked about it on this show of him running in circles, and it was driving me nuts. Like, just go down or drive forward and go down. But he made the decision. He got a block, and that was what he needed, and that reinvigorated the team in general. The energy totally changed after that. That was to tie the game, by the way. The Trent Sherfield touchdown was in the first half where he took the bounce ball and made the toe catch in the end zone. Unbelievable catch by him. Again, those 2 guys.
Anytime you get luck, you take it.
Those 2 guys, unbelievable. And then the go-ahead touchdown was to Dawson Knox, of all people, who a lot of people wrote off, but that one doesn't surprise me as much. Knox has always been
I'd like to see
a
him
safety
get more
valve
involved. Right.
Oh, yeah. And Allen has the chemistry with him. He's able to get open. Him and Kincaid have been great. Kincaid made a few good catches as well in this game. Khalil Shakir, can we please get the ball more to Shakir and Kincaid? Those guys are unbelievable playmakers, and they're reliable with their hands. You got to love what you see from them. But it was an overall team effort led by Josh Allen. And then obviously Josh Allen make those big runs, that big first down when it came down to it, when they're running out the clock. That was huge. Sean McDermott going for it on 4th down in the last possession. Phenomenal. Loved it. I just said, please, just go for it. Don't be conservative here. And he wasn't. And, it didn't work. But guess what? 9 times out of 10 with Josh Allen, that is going to work, and you should do it. And I hope he knows that. But,
yes.
It still ended up in the Bills' favor with the Dolphins throwing an interception on the very next possession there. So to end the game.
Yeah. And one of the bigger topics on the season was Josh Allen can't make all these plays all the time. Right. He can do it, but can somebody else make a play on this team? And I think we've seen a lot more of that the last few weeks during the 5-game win streak. And this game is a great microcosm of that. Is Deontay Hardy, right? Making a play for the team, right? Has made any plays all year, right? The defense stepping up. I mean, Taylor Rapp stepping up and making the interception.
Correct. And he's had a lot of mistakes on
other people stepping up and making plays for the Bills, right? And I think you saw that. Josh still makes the plays he needs to make, but it doesn't all have to be him all the time. And I think if they can get some playmakers like Shakir who can get some yards after catch, we saw a lot of that in the Miami game as well. That's what's gonna bring this team to a Super Bowl contender, and not just a team that can make the playoffs and get knocked out, right? I think that's the difference. It doesn't all have to go through Josh Allen all the time.
Correct. But Josh Allen does own Miami in every single way, right? What's he now, 11-2, I think, versus Miami all time, and another 359-yard, 2-touchdown performance. I think it was an NFL record of 2 touchdown performances straight against one team, right? So it's just unbelievable, the statistics he puts up when he plays Miami. And those are the games that matter for the Bills. Division rival, one who's been in the playoff position. Those are the games you want to win. And that's when you can rely on Josh Allen. So hopefully the offense can carry that momentum in the second half into the playoffs. And that would really be phenomenal, and continue to build and grow on that. And we're hitting the strides at the right time, which is good, right? Coming into the playoffs. And like you said earlier, now's the time to take that Super Bowl run. The expectation is still there. You're supposed to beat the Steelers. You're going to be the favorite in whoever you play in the next round.
Yeah, that's just 10-point favorites in the Steelers. That's pretty high for a playoff game.
Well, for a team that shouldn't be in the playoffs, I don't know. We should definitely, at home against a team with no quarterback, no best defensive player, the Bills should win that by 40 points. And I'm not exaggerating, because Josh Allen is going to play the whole game. So there's no, sit him in the third quarter because we're up by 30. Right. It's a playoff game.
I definitely hear what you're saying. And you like to see the team evolve a little bit. I mean, they've won a lot of games in a row, but you go back to, the backup quarterback and Skylar Thompson last year in the wild card.
Correct.
Miami almost won that game, right?
You can't lay an egg.
You're too close for comfort. Can't lay an egg. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, and they're ready, right? You got to be, right? This is playoff time. The thing I like about McDermott's team now is that they've been through that adversity. They've been the favorite and winning and had it in their hands and lost it with the 13 seconds. They've had, the underdog mentality.
That was their best year. I think that
everything.
Was Correct. Of all the years, the 13-second year was the year.
Oh, we had it. It was right there. Everybody knew we were going to win.
That's some of the best quarterback play I've ever seen.
Then you have last year where it's like you're at home, you're playing in the position you want against a good team in the Bengals, but you blow it at home because you just weren't ready. You didn't play well, right? You didn't play well in that game. And now I think the veterans, the guys who have been through it, which is the most of this roster, is ready to go and knows what it's going to take to win the next few games to get a Super Bowl championship. And it's, I'm sure a lot of the talking heads are going to be on board now because they know.
Right. And we're going to talk about our preseason predictions here in a second, but let's go back to the preseason. We're worried about going to Cincinnati. We're worried about going to Kansas City, right? Mm-hmm. That's out of the way.
2 wins. Yep.
So this is the year where it's, you can have a lot of hope for this team because I think they're hot at the right time. And then the Kansas City, the Joe Burrows and the Pat Mahomes, they have to go to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Cincinnati, it's a tough game. If you go to Kansas City, it's tough. And I know the Bills can go there and win, but again, it's easier than ever, right? If Pat Mahomes has to go to Buffalo, that's a lot better scenario than going to Kansas City, right? So it's all there for you, and that's what makes it exciting for me.
And if the matchup ends up being Baltimore, that's another team where I think that the matchup is
It'd be a fun one
for Buffalo. For Sean McDermott playing Lamar Jackson, it's been good the past 2 times we did it, right? So
it wouldn't happen until the championship game.
Yes,
right?
We both have
you're already having fun just by being there. So that would just be a great game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the result would be the result at that point. The Bills could win, right? They could beat Baltimore. We've seen it.
Absolutely. But again, I would definitely pick.
I wouldn't be horribly upset if the Baltimore Ravens beat them because they're a good team.
I would be. I don't want them to lose at all. The Bills, it's Super Bowl, baby. That's their expectation now.
I just don't lose to a team you're supposed to beat, right? That's my point. Don't lose to the Steelers.
No, you can't.
You know,
otherwise you're the embarrassment. Yeah.
Right.
Like, why are you even there? Why'd you do this?
Don't let Cleveland come to Buffalo and beat you. Right. That'd be very
possible? Cleveland is the 5 seed. So,
well yeah,
I guess
City wins, right?
Yeah.
No, if Miami wins and Cleveland wins, then Cleveland would go to Buffalo, right?
No, Cleveland is the 5 seed. Miami's the 6 seed, correct?
So the lower seed goes to the higher seed, correct?
Correct.
So they would go to Baltimore.
6 would go to. Oh, you're right. So Cleveland would come to
Cleveland
Buffalo.
would go to 2, right?
Correct.
5 goes to 2.
Yes.
So yeah. And obviously there are scenarios Kansas City goes to Buffalo, which we talked about, which is fun, right? But you gotta let's focus on the Steelers, getting ahead of ourselves.
One game at a time, 1 week at a time. Yes, but the matchups are fun this weekend for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the coaching, like a Black Monday yesterday. So is it really that black? There's only because Arthur Smith got fired Sunday night, right? Not a lot of news going on Monday anymore.
Correct.
Mike Vrabel comes out today.
And a lot of coaches were fired in season too.
Yeah, right, in season. So this is the biggest news, though. The most surprising for sure. Mike Vrabel. I mean, I thought they ended their season well, right?
Strong. Yeah.
Knocked off the Jaguars. They had a couple big wins down the stretch with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this is the things you want to see, right? But I think what's going on here, there's something behind the scenes brewing, right? Mike Vrabel is going to New England, right? I think that's
that's the expectation here. Yeah, right. And a lot of people were starting that conversation early, midway through the season when the Patriots weren't looking so good. Who could replace him? Maybe Mike Vrabel. Oh, really? Yeah. And now it does, we'll see. Vrabel has proven himself as a head coach. I will say that. One of the few disciples from the Bill Belichick area that ends up, staying in his position and proving himself as a head coach, right? So now that he's done that, will they bring him into New England? My only hesitancy there is, you and I talked about this earlier today via text. I said, New England needs to draft a quarterback and develop a quarterback, right? And that seems to be the path they're on with the pick that they have. But Vrabel is a defensive coach. And, are you going to trust him to be able to draft and develop a
right? And it's not the best position either. Like New England needs a lot of rebuild, right? They have some good defensive pieces, but I mean, that offense needs a full rebuild. So you're a couple years out, I think. So that's not the most attractive job if you're trying to get a job and win. So it does raise the questions. Why make this move now? Is it because Tennessee's also in a rebuild? Looks like it's going to be a few years for them. Derrick Henry on his way out. Jump off the burning ship. Could be a move like that.
Yeah, right. And I think with Tennessee, it's more, obviously they're going in a different direction. And I think it's, they have their quarterback that they like probably, and they have, cap space and older guys who are coming off the book,
picks, right?
Top draft picks. So there's a lot to like about that job, but not if you're an experienced head coach. That's more for a new head coach, right? That's prime for a new head coach to walk in. Look, I have my ideas. Here they are. I can build around this guy. I can bring in these guys. And this is what I want to do, versus an experienced coach who's like, this team is going to take 2 or 3 more years. I'd rather, move on. And even from the team standpoint, we'd rather have somebody with fresh new ideas come in and build this team and bring it to expectation. But that's kind of the counterpoint to Vrabel going to New England. If that's the case, like, do you want to be New England bringing in this coach who's already got experience, but, has to build from scratch still, basically. And in the AFC East, which is no cakewalk once Aaron Rodgers gets back and all this, the division is going to be just as tough next year, and New England's going to be at the bottom of it still. Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, and maybe Mike Vrabel, it seems like, Robert Kraft will hire coaches long term, right? We don't know because they've only had Bill Belichick for 20 years and he's the greatest coach of all time, but maybe he's attracted to that as well. It's a long-term thing. The Bengals are notorious for this. They keep coaches for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's more income, more stability for your family. If you're raising kids, I mean, it's a long-term plan. That could be the other factor here that we're not considering, but that's up for them to decide. But I will say New England's not the most attractive job if you're trying to win football games.
Correct. Not right now.
But which one is?
Ooh, that's a really good question. My my head immediately went to the team that, I was like, okay, who would I want to coach if I was the guy getting the job? And my head went to the Raiders, believe it or not. I think that they've just been mismanaged. They have talent, they have ability, they haven't really capitalized on everything. And to me, that starts with the head coach, right? So get me a good GM, head coach combo in that place, and you're ready to go, right? You've got
to find a quarterback. I don't know how you're doing that.
Veteran, right? I think you can bring in the right veteran, and it depends on who you are, right? Which coach they hire is going to want to bring in their type of veteran. But you can also, Aiden O'Connell has shown flashes. So him being your backup is okay, right? He could be the guy that you're like, well, if we bring in the veteran to help him grow, then maybe he could be the quarterback after this. You sign a veteran.
Would you bring in Russell Wilson?
It depends on who I am.
Is O'Connell better than him? Yeah.
I personally do not want Russell Wilson, but maybe the head coach says, this is the kind of guy we need because we have a strong run game. We have this. We have those. We have certain pieces and cap space to build around and things to manipulate, and the best wide receiver and all of that leads me to say, if I want to win now, I'm going to do it with the Oakland Raiders or Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Right. So give me the Raiders there. And, looking around the league, it depends on, I think New England is not one of the more attractive jobs because they have high profile, high expectation now, and they're starting from scratch for the first time in 30 years. Right. So it's going to be an adventure there versus a team like maybe the jobs we were just talking about in Tennessee. That kind of is attractive, right? You have a quarterback that if you like that guy and you think he's the one to build around, and that division is not the strongest, right? You still think like you can build and put your impact and make this team take the next step, right? Like there's a good resume to build around there. There's pieces that you're like, I can do this with this. And but still I think the Raiders job is where my mind goes first.
See, I disagree with the Raiders. I think the Raiders are a ways out.
Really?
Also, because they're picking, I think 10th in the draft, they're not in a good position to get one of the top quarterbacks, which I think sets them back. You got to find other.
I don't think they need it. Yeah, I think they need a veteran. They are a team that needs a veteran. They tried that this year, but they brought in the wrong guy. Well, they made the wrong move.
There's only one guy available who's a veteran, and that's probably Justin Fields, right?
Kirk Cousins. If he doesn't stay in Minnesota, I'm throwing the book at Kirk Cousins to come there. Are you kidding me? Kirk Cousins throwing the ball there?
I mean, sure, but I think he's back in Minnesota.
I think so too, but okay, well, trade then. There will be guys available. I don't care if you bring in Mac Jones. If you think that's your guy, do it and make it work. But I don't think they obviously didn't press the right buttons there. I don't think I want Mac Jones.
It's too hard to get a quarterback, and I think outside of the 2 or 3 guys in the draft, it's going to be a long-term project. So anyway. My point was, the Chargers, I think, is the best job because you have a quarterback, you have a great roster right out the gate, few pieces here and there. To me, that's the best job. And I think the second best job, if you're trying to win football games again, is the Atlanta Falcons.
I do like the Falcons. That was another one that came to mind.
You're a quarterback away.
Correct.
And,
and the pieces they brought in, it's like you have the star running back. You've got a great receiver. You need the quarterback, yes, and the previous regime didn't do enough there, and you have to find a way to build that offensive line. The defense is playing well. I think the Falcons are a good point, too.
But you got to find a way to get a quarterback, but I think with a roster like that on offense, I think you could settle for a game manager type quarterback. You know what I mean?
Correct. So maybe a veteran there as well.
You win games with that.
But on the flip side, though, the Chargers, to me, is one of the worst. I'm sick of the Chargers, right? I don't want to go into that position. They have no fans in LA, right? It's more home games for the opponents than it is for you. We know that.
True for Vegas too, right?
Not in Vegas, I don't think. Is it?
I think all the fans travel to Vegas to watch.
Sure, of course, but still, LA is one of the worst there. And so, regardless of that fact, the fact that the expectations have all been there, you have that franchise quarterback, and you need to build around him. They've had all the pieces, and they just haven't been able to get it done. But now you walk into a situation where you have 2 aging wide receivers that you have to make decisions on. If you cut them, who are you bringing in, right? And then now you've got the quarterback, but no guys for him to throw to, and then you've got the
Quentin
defense.
Johnson's supposed to be that guy.
You got guys to make decisions on defense.
Again.
Sure, he has to do it, but Now you got the defensive side where it's the same thing. Are you keeping Khalil Mack? You've got these names, but they haven't been productive. Is a new coach going to come in there and magically make it work? I don't think so. I think there's a serious problem there, and you're going to have to wipe that roster and try and quickly turn it around because you have that franchise quarterback. You don't have the time that the Falcons or any of the other teams I've mentioned have to kind of start to rebuild. You have to win now with the Chargers. And to me, I don't want to do that. I don't want that job.
But it's easier to build a roster around a quarterback than it is to build how am I saying this?
Yeah.
It's easier to build around a quarterback than it is to build a team without a quarterback. Right, because they're just not available, right?
Sure.
You can't get one. It could take you 5 years to get a decent quarterback. It could set you back 10 with the Patriots. They thought they had a guy. Now they're set back another couple years, right? So that's just, agree to disagree. That's fine. But you got to go with Justin Herbert here, as the best position. And let's not forget about the Commanders. That's another interesting one because,
they've got a lot of
traded away their two edge players. They're the best defensive ends, Montez Sweat and Chase Young got traded away. However, those defensive tackles are solid, right? I mean, you still have Terry McLaurin, who's a top 5 receiver, right? I think we could say that. If he's never really had a real shot because he's never really had a real quarterback, right?
Yeah. Well, and
have that conversation.
What do you do with Sam Howell?
You have the number 2 pick, you're going to get a guy, right? And you go from there and you roll the dice on a rookie. But I mean, that's a pretty attractive job because you're going to get a quarterback.
Agreed there. And you have the cornerstone piece once you have that. So I agree. And it's a whole new setup there, right? New owner, new head coach, new GM. Right. You are running the show, right? You are going to be part of, hey, this is how we're going to do it. And if you're the guy, that's similar to kind of the path Sean McDermott took, right? New ownership. They had a coach for a couple of years that didn't work out.
Matters.
You come in, new GM, and you're just like, this is how I see this working out. And for Sean McDermott, it obviously came to fruition. Mm-hmm. And if you're a guy like, yes, I want to build this from the bottom up and make this, be a part of what I want this to be, the vision of what I see this being, that is definitely an attractive job as well. It's going to take longer, but it's attractive.
Yeah. And I think the least too attractive got to be the Carolina Panthers. They're the least.
Ownership problems and everything else there.
Well, I mean, the whole thing.
Not pretty.
You
get a 9-year contract, you work 1 year and you're
quarterback. Yeah. This is absolutely how you don't develop a quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't fire the coach mid-season, right? So all the stuff, right?
Yes.
But second, again, the Patriots is just, I don't want to follow Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Not pretty.
That's going to be tough. So again, we'll see what Mike Vrabel does. That's a very interesting story. But right now there's no, Bill Belichick's still the head coach in New England. So maybe Vrabel goes elsewhere. Maybe he takes the Atlanta job. I mean, that'd be pretty wild. All right, let's get into all the divisions are finalized, right? We got our division champs. We got our teams that finished last. Let's just take a little walk in the past, back to the preseason where we predicted every division. We do it every year in the preseason. We just go through every division, AFC, NFC, and pick our finalized standings, right? All right, so starting with the AFC East, you had all of them correct. Buffalo, Miami, Jets, New England. That was the order you predicted. That's the order that
it
came to fruition. I actually picked the Jets to finish second because if we go back in time, Aaron Rodgers was their quarterback.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. Ended very quickly. But I thought the Jets would at least get, that.
No, I knew that for me was more of Miami being the threat than the Jets not being, right? I certainly didn't predict that Aaron Rodgers was going to be out, but I did predict that Miami was going to be a contender this year for sure. And they showed that.
Yep. And we both had New England last, so we're correct there. All right. AFC West, we both picked Kansas City, both correct. All the others are wrong. We both had the Chargers finishing second. You had Denver and then Vegas. I had Vegas and then Denver.
And Vegas
didn't work out. The Chargers actually finished last.
Yeah.
And I think, the Vegas was second and Denver was third.
Mm-hmm,
so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, AFC North, I picked Baltimore to win the division. Then I had Cincinnati, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. All wrong except for Baltimore. You had Cincinnati to win the division, then Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. The only one you had right was Pittsburgh finished third.
And that is a ass backwards standing there, right? With the Browns.
And again, Joe Burrow, I mean, that changed everything, right? And you just can't predict that stuff.
It did, yes.
AFC South.
Baltimore, I was right on there. So go ahead.
Pittsburgh. AFC South, Jacksonville finishing first in the division was both of our predictions. You actually got all of them wrong on this one. Jacksonville, Houston, Tennessee, Indianapolis was your final standings. Mine was Jacksonville, Tennessee, Indianapolis, Houston. The only one I got right was Indianapolis.
Yeah. So, but let's be honest here. You had Houston last, and I had them second. Yes. Now, this is my boldest prediction of the season. Remember when we did the show? Then I said they will finish second, and they will be contenders in this division, and that was like crazy at the time. Nobody believed me.
For them to win the division with a rookie quarterback,
I have been talking about the Texans since the beginning of the season. Since they drafted CJ Stroud, and I thought he was the right fit for what they had going on there. I have told everybody preseason, summer, this is the team to watch. They're going to be the team to make me money this year. They're going to be better than people think. They're going to win more games than people think. I did not have them winning the division because I thought that a veteran Jacksonville team could get that job done in a weak division. However, they're crapping the bed down the stretch, and that was good through week 13 maybe, but then losing 5 of your last 6 games and blowing it to allow the Texans.
I mean, we both had solid arguments that I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars could be in contention for the 1 seed.
The 1 seed
at the time.
And they were
looking at all your division opponents had rookie quarterbacks, right?
Mm-hmm,
you think that's going to be at least 6 wins, right? And it just think those rookie quarterbacks came in and played hard, and the teams did a hell of a job coaching this year, and that's just how it played out. And Jacksonville just didn't live up to the standard anyways, right?
It's almost ironic because I would say my biggest miss and my best prediction that was boldest and dead on was in the same division there. Jacksonville as the 1 seed and the Texans to finish 2 and compete for a playoff spot. And, the Texans take was the one I got more heat on than the Jacksonville one, but the Jacksonville one ends up being wrong, and the Texan one was dead on. And, I've liked that team all year, and I still do. And, we'll see what it happens in the playoffs here. We'll have our picks on Thursday, but that's a good one. That division is just funny to me.
That's gonna be fun. That'll be a fun game. Cleveland going to Houston. That's fun. All right, switching to the NFC real quick. We both picked Philly to win the division. Both wrong. Dallas won it. You had Philly, the Giants, Dallas, and Washington. I had Philly, Dallas, Giants, Washington. I had the Giants, Washington right. You had just Washington in that one. The Philly Dallas thing could go back and forth, but you actually had the Giants in there.
I did.
Great year last year. I mean, Daniel Jones gets hurt. That definitely affected their season.
Correct. Derailed.
Yeah, that's a tough one to predict. They've had a different winner every year for 18 seasons. Or something like that.
It's nuts.
It's wild.
Competitive. That's what it means. Those teams.
All right, NFC North. We were both high on Minnesota this year.
Minnesota, my team.
Yeah, and the season they had last year, all that magic, you thought maybe they'd have a great year. Kirk Cousins goes down. That
correct. Yeah, I mean, when you lose a quarterback, you can't really bank on the results that you predicted preseason, right? Like nobody's predicting your best player to go.
And they didn't really come out and play well. I think they went like 1-4 in the first 5 games.
Correct. And just as they started to build momentum back is when Kirk Cousins got hurt. So that's tough.
Not meant to be this year. I was much higher on Green Bay than you. I picked Green Bay to finish second.
I picked them last.
You had Detroit finishing second, then Chicago, then Green Bay. I had Detroit, Chicago finishing last. So, all right.
But Detroit is a playoff team, so that
and they did it. They pulled it off. Kudos to them. All right, NFC South. The only one we got right is I had Carolina last. We both picked the Saints. We both picked the Atlanta Falcons to finish second. You had Carolina third. I had Tampa Bay third. You had Tampa Bay last. I had Carolina.
What a crap show, right? This literally came down to minutes of each other. The top 3 all changed, right? Like it was wild.
And I'm sensing a little Baker Mayfield hate in this with Tampa finishing.
There definitely is. I mean, they don't belong in the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. They are not a playoff team this year, no more than Pittsburgh is, right? You don't deserve to be there. Pittsburgh even deserves it more, but still, Tampa Bay, the fact that they're in the playoffs is an embarrassment to the NFL.
I think it's fun. The receivers are fun, but do they win a playoff game? I don't see it.
No.
All right, last one here. NFC West. You picked the San Francisco 49ers to win. I picked Seattle. I was wrong on that one. You picked Seattle to finish second, the Rams to finish third, and the Arizona Cardinals last. I had Seattle, San Francisco, Rams, Arizona Cardinals. So you had San Francisco right. We both also had Arizona finishing last.
Yeah.
Correct. So Seattle just kind of fell apart at the end, but I mean,
they were right there.
Even now, you look at their roster; they're just so balanced. I feel like they need a little more quarterback play.
That
I think
offense
help them a little more consistency. Right. But I thought Seattle was going to have a better year than they did.
Agreed.
So anyways, yeah, it's really hard to predict the division, final standings in the preseason.
It is, yeah. Hard. But how much we got right was surprising. And I will say, I'm looking at my playoff chart that I made at the beginning of the season of like who played who, and it's not too bad other than the Jags miss. I did have the Bills as the 2 seed actually. Bengals, nice. Chiefs as the 4 seed.
Who's your
Ravens? The Jaguars, the Ravens, Dolphins, and Chargers. So Dolphins as the 6 seed, Ravens as the 5 seed, in though. And my AFC championship game is the Bills over the Ravens. So I do still have that one in play. And I do think that would be a great way to work it out. Same thing in the NFC, right? I had the Eagles as the 1 seed, 49ers as the 2 seed.
Saints, I think everyone saw that coming, Lions, right? That was an easy prediction this year. The 49ers and the Eagles.
Yes,
right?
they were by far the best teams. Yes.
Last year, you knew they'd be better this year.
And that is my NFC championship game is Eagles over 49ers. Right now, do I feel good about that? Not the way the Eagles are playing coming into the playoffs, but the 49ers certainly. And I do think that, they'll be there when it's all said and done. And Bills over Eagles was my preseason Super Bowl prediction. So still on the table, obviously.
Again, I had Dallas. Confident. Bills Dallas was mine.
Yeah, that one looks a lot better right now.
Looks a lot better, but it's still Dallas is a tough one. Picking them for the Super Bowl was
well, they have to find a way to win 2 playoff games, right? We haven't seen that in how many decades, right? It hasn't happened.
These games at the end of the year didn't give me any more confidence either. But looking at it, I just thought they'd overcome Philadelphia finally, which I think they did. They had a lot go their way and a lot of luck, but they did. They won the division, and Mike McCarthy coaching for his job. I thought maybe that would boost the team to get over the hump. But yeah, they're still in it. It's still alive.
Yeah, and I still like the Lions to win a playoff game. I think that was one of my bold predictions in the preseason as well. Not that a lot of people didn't see that happening, but because their franchise history, the Detroit Lions have all of 1 NFL playoff victory in their history since the NFL merger. So that is the most surprising team stat ever, but I do have them winning a game.
You're going to get us going on this ref call.
Yeah, I know, right?
It would have been such a different story. But
God, they would have been the 2 seed. Yeah,
2 seed. So. Probably 2 home playoff games if they win the first one. You wouldn't have to face Matt Stafford and the hot Rams right now. I mean, that's
tough draw.
Anyway,
tough game. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll talk more Thursday. But yeah,
all right, we got about 13 minutes, and I got 3 more topics. So let's hit up the first one here. Now we're kind of on this topic right now. How many playoff teams have 0 chance to win the Super Bowl?
How many? Oh, that's a really good question.
Just go. I mean, I think Tampa Bay 0 chance, right?
0 chance. They shouldn't even be there.
Steelers, the Steelers, no chance.
Right? Those are the 2 lowest in the AFC and the NFC, I'd say, right? Let's see. NFC is such a wild card, right? Any of those teams can win. Houston, I think they could do it if they go on a run, but they're definitely the next weakest in my mind because they have a bad draw with Cleveland. We'll talk more about that on Thursday as well, but Cleveland's a tough matchup in that first round. They just rested starters. Green Bay, no chance in my mind. No chance. They're not good enough.
3 that you're calling 0 chance. You're saying Houston has a chance.
Barely, though, because I'm not predicting them to win the first game, even though I want them to. But if they do, I think they could beat whoever they play in the second round. Say they draw,
Baltimore.
They could beat Baltimore, right? They could beat Baltimore. Yeah, because they're the
they could.
They're the 4 seed, so they would play.
If Kansas City wins and if Houston wins, then Houston would play Baltimore.
The Bills matchup I don't like the most is Houston, right? So that is who I don't want the Bills to play. So I think if you look at it that way,
how about Cleveland? With Joe
Cleveland
Flacco?
Is just no. That's gonna show their vulnerability.
Right?
They certainly have a chance because of a defense, and we know this is the NFL. Defense wins championships sometimes, right? So yes. I think their defense is by far the strongest, and their offense has shown life with Joe Flacco. So potential, but
Miami Dolphins.
The injuries are killing them, but
I think they come back healthy, though, right?
Saying 0 chance would be dead wrong, right? Yes.
So, I think when you have a receiving core like that, you have a chance.
Correct.
Sure.
Correct.
So I guess that's it then. Only 3. You're saying Green Bay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have no shot at the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Not bad.
Yeah,
that means it's competitive, right?
Exactly. And the rest are going to be, tight matchups all the way through, hopefully. And that's what you want to see in the playoffs is, good games. And there's not a whole slate to look at anymore. It's one game at a time and everybody's eyes are on you. And I think that is going to show these teams for who they really are, right? And starting with that first game, and we'll see what happens there. Again, we'll talk more Thursday, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I've got thoughts. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So outside of the 1 seed, who do you think the 49ers fear the most? And who do you think the Baltimore Ravens fear the most?
I think the Ravens fear the Bills the most, obviously. That's an easy answer. I think
Kansas City.
Even the experts are saying the Bills. No, I don't fear Kansas City at all. They're pathetic right now. They are pathetic on offense.
Baltimore runs over them.
Correct. Yep. If they make it that far. I don't even think they make it that far. I don't think Kansas City makes it. They got to get through the first round, right? So the Dolphins, Baltimore's scared of the Bills. I don't know that they're scared of much else because they know defensively Sean McDermott has owned us, and the Bills are really good on offense when they're playing well, and the Bills are the hottest team right now coming into the playoffs. So that is a lot to fear for the Bengals. I don't know that they fear necessarily any of the other teams. Or the Ravens.
It's not the same Ravens team either. Roquan Smith's over there now. I mean, it's, they have 2 first-round receivers, right? Zay Flowers.
Correct.
Scott Bateman. I mean, it's a lot different team than
they're strong.
They're strong. Years ago.
I would say the same for the Bills. The team they fear the most, or the matchup that is the hardest for them, is the Ravens right now because they're the best team, the best record, and finding a way to click on offense and defense, capable of making plays on offense and defense. Even if you beat one side, you got to beat the other. That's a tough thing to do. Yeah. So that would be, I think, the key ones in the AFC. In the NFC, if you're the 49ers, which I think are the clear strongest team there, Dallas is the team that I would not want to play because their defense is capable of getting to you, and if they get a lead, they're going to destroy you, right?
Yeah.
They're going to eat you alive.
It's a good matchup for San Francisco.
It is.
Dallas struggles to stop the run this year, and that's what San Francisco does.
Correct,
right?
But there's not much to the Eagles would be if they can get their shit together, but they have not shown that the last 4 or 5 games, right? It's not been, they're trending in the wrong direction coming in. So if you're a team, even like the Bucs, you're like, hey, we drew a pretty good draw for the first round because they might just screw it up themselves and we end up winning. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case in the first round, but whoever they play in the second round is going to be like, good, we're getting a team that has shown vulnerabilities over the last few weeks. And that could be their downfall. Otherwise, the Eagles are another team that's complete on offense and defense. It's just that their momentum coming in is completely backwards right now, not where you want to be coming into the playoffs. Other than that, though, I mean, I wouldn't fear much else in the NFC.
What about the last one here, though? Cleveland and Baltimore. It's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
Cleveland's defense is so much better than anybody else's statistically.
Correct.
I think that's a pretty tough matchup. Plus Joe Flacco returning to Baltimore.
Divisional opponent. Yeah. That would be a fun matchup, but I still think Baltimore wins that game. I don't think that's a big threat to Baltimore and how they play.
Interesting.
Third matchup between the teams, but yeah, different mindset, different timing. Cleveland would certainly be ready for that game, but I still think Baltimore being the better team.
Well, they got to beat Houston on the road first, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, that could be a fun one. I think the Browns Ravens would be a really fun matchup, as would the Browns Bills. That'd be a really fun matchup. Their cities are close to each other. The Browns haven't been in the playoffs in a long time, so it's somebody new, right? I think that would be fun. All right, let's recap your pick 6, and then just talk about the final draft order real quick, and then we're gonna get out of here.
So week 18, I wanted to go 6-0, but we went 4-2. But to finish on 4 straight winning weeks, 5 out of the last 6 winning weeks. I mean, phenomenal pick 6 season here, folks. You can't draw it up any better. If I would have told you at the beginning of the season that I would finish with a percentage of almost 62% win streak with this pick 6, you would have bet your house on every single call I made, right? Like that's the way it goes. And this is, actually one of the lower percentages I've finished with in the last 3 years, but to be anything above 50, if I was at 51, I'd be saying the same thing. This is phenomenal, right? You're above 50%. To be at 62 is unprecedented, right? And to do this all season long.
Well, it's multiple seasons too. I think that's
correct, right? And 62 is one of my lower. Like it's been phenomenal to do this. The fact that I enjoy doing it. Sometimes I wish I had bet more of my own money on my picks because it's been that good of a season. But I bet
let
within
other
my
people
own
make
means
money
too.
too. Yeah.
Exactly. I have 2 kids. I got to, I only have so much to actually play with when it comes to betting. But another phenomenal season for the Pick Six, and I really am excited about my picks. I enjoy it. That's the ultimate thing. I make all the picks every week for everything. I've done very well with that. Still did well with that this season on Tally's site, doing all those, meaning, against the spread, straight up, and over under. Still, holding my own there for standings on Tally's site, and to have this big of a percentage in my Pick Six, phenomenal season in any right. And we're going to carry that into the postseason. And now I will pick every single game and give you my ranking from best to lowest confidence and tell you exactly where I'm betting. Right this week, I might not be betting my least favorite, my number 6, but my number 1 and 2, you can better believe that's where I'm putting my money. Hopefully, so we'll keep it going. Let's carry that energy in. Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah. It's hard to believe the 18 weeks went by already, but yeah, still a lot of fun matchups. I think what the NFL's done with the wild card weekend really opens it up and makes it a lot more fun. Still 3 full days of football, or 2 full days and 1 Monday night game. So yeah, I think it's been going well so far. More teams in, more fan bases. I think that's
more excitement around what they call Super Wild Card Weekend.
All right, just going to touch on the draft, and then we're going to hop out of here. But final draft order. It's set now, right? Chicago gets the number 1 pick. They've had that locked up for a couple weeks now. But the Commanders, I think, is a surprising team. Basically tanked their season, lost 8 games in a row to get the number 2 pick. Got to go quarterback there, right? You don't do that for any other reason.
Correct.
New England ends up with number 3, which is very interesting. You're not really in a position to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks. So now do you have a third quarterback ranked high, or are they going to do a New England thing and take a tackle? I think that's the route.
No, the best player in this draft is Marvin Harrison Jr. And if they don't pick him at 3, I would love it. Don't get me wrong, because that means he's not in our division. But that would be bonkers to me. Unless somebody throws a ridiculous trade their way, you can have X, Y, and Z starter plus 2 first rounders plus next year's second rounder, whatever it is. You would have to go balls to the wall to get that number 3 if I'm the GM in New England.
Well, and if Bill Belichick's there, they're not taking Marvin Harrison.
Oh, I see it. I believe that as well. Yeah, but
I don't see it.
They have to. Yeah. So I don't think Bill Belichick will be there, and whoever is, even if it's a defensive coach, is going to know that that's the guy to build around.
Yeah. That'd be a really fun pick to talk about all off season leading up to the draft. New England at 3 really is where the draft starts, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 4, Arizona locked in. Marvin Harrison Jr. to Arizona, I think, would be a great fit. The Chargers end up at 5. Another reason to love that job, right? They've lost 5 in a row at the end of the season. Now they're locked in at the 5 pick. Giants pick number 6. Wink Martindale leaving there, right? A lot of questions. I mean, I feel like they've had top picks for so many years. It's like, okay.
There's so many good offensive linemen here, and I think that's where the Giants have to go.
They got to find a receiver.
Those top guys are going to fall there. And this receiver class, you can still get somebody in the 2nd or 3rd round. And I think they're going to look at signing free agents at wide receivers. So I think if I'm the Giants, those offensive linemen who are the best of the best, that could be a 1st overall pick in any other draft, are going to fall to you at 6, and you have to take them there.
Yeah, and you got to get Barkley re-signed first, and then we'll go from there. Because if you don't have him, it's a whole nother thing. But I could see let Barkley walk, take a receiver at 6. I think the fan base would be pretty pleased.
Maybe. Yep.
All right, Tennessee locked in at 7. Atlanta's number 8. Again, Atlanta needs a quarterback, so that's interesting. Are we going to see, one of the second tier quarterbacks fall a little bit to 8? That'd be something to pay attention to. Then Chicago again picks number 9, and rounding out the top 10, the New York Jets locked in at 10. Had to win that last game. That's classic Jets, right? We're going to win that last game, and it's going to knock us back a few pegs.
Yeah,
we're not going to get the player we want.
And give the advantage to New England at 3, right?
And the Jets are interesting too, because Zach Wilson on the way out looks like. I think one of the headlines I saw out of New York media was they're going to sign a veteran quarterback, so they're done drafting quarterbacks, which is probably good for both parties, right? Because it hasn't worked out, right? It just hasn't
Can't
worked
develop.
out.
Can't develop.
Can't develop. Right? Exactly. So yeah, that's the draft
quite
order.
the top 10, and looking forward to talking about the guys that are available for them when it comes to draft season, because it's certainly always interesting to see the teams at the top this year with all of the talent that's there and these players that are, we know these top quarterbacks are going to go quickly, and we know Marvin Harrison Jr. is in a category of his own, and there's still a lot of good talent up there at the top of the draft. So there's going to be options and ways of manipulating it. And I don't think anybody's going to get it right when it comes down to it, but and they never do, but this is just the top 10 alone is going to be fun.
Yeah. And the Bills are back to, upper 20s, or whatever. So
right where we belong, hopefully 32nd.
Yeah. So all our hopes of getting a top receivers are gone. It's gone,
still drafting wide receiver 1, probably edge 2, probably, Yeah. Working it out.
So that'll be a lot of fun. But thanks for tuning in with us. Be sure to check us out on Thursday. We'll preview Wildcard Weekend. We'll go through all the matchups. Anthony's going to give his top bets for each game. We'll pick each game. And we'll talk in depth for a good hour or so about each game, right? So
yeah.
Good talking with you. See you next time.
It's been fun. Thanks for kicking it with us.